Hey folks, this is Mansa Nagraj from Trendy Tech, and here is a story of a data lover, Sarabi, who graduated as an electronics and communication engineer from NIT and now working as a senior data engineer at CNH. Stay tuned until the end to know how she manages to transition into the IT industry. So hi Sarabi, a very warm welcome, and I'm really curious to know your journey into the IT industry. So let's get started with a brief introduction of yourself.
Yeah, hi Mansa. Good morning everyone. I am Sarabi and I graduated from 𝐻𝐈T Kurukshetra in 2017. I have been working as a data engineer since then, and my journey has been really great working as a data engineer because data was very trending in 2017 back, 5 years back. So I just picked it up and it was really new for me, and it has been really great going into data because data is the new oil, as we all know, and I have been part of that industry from 2017. I have worked in two companies since I've started my journey. So my first one was a data analytics firm where we were working with some pharmaceutical clients to process their data and generate insights so that they can improve on their sales and performance in the pharmaceutical sector. And it was a multinational company, so it also gave me exposure to talk with international clients and handle their problems and provide solution to them related to the data side. And then I moved to a product-based company where now I'm working for my own client itself. So that is another, sort of a great experience that I'm having when I've moved to a product-based company. But then, yes, it's again in the data domain, and I've got opportunity here again in the data engineering domain where I am able to, serve the clients better, read the data better, and provide insights to my organization.
Excellent. That's awesome. I feel it's really interesting already. Now, I just wanted to understand from you, having pursued a bachelor's degree in electronics and communication from National Institute of Technology, what drove you towards IT?
Yeah, I would say that, the real reason, I wanted to come into IT was the safer choice that we have in India. So in India, electronics and communication back then, I think I was not very sure if I would be able to secure a job or not. So this, I pushed towards moving towards a safer industry, and IT seemed to be a safe option. And I had seen a lot of people moving into, IT domain, and IT domain was able to absorb talents from various branches. And one more thing I would like to highlight is that problem solving was one thing that I was always interested in. And with the help of all my friends that I had in hostels or in my college, I was able to get versed with the programming concepts. And therefore, I got into IT and, lost my interest for getting a job in electronics and communication. Yeah. And also I would say that I was in love with numbers. I was always, into numbers. So, and then when I got this opportunity to work into data industry, that gave me into another direction towards the IT domain that is there. So I thought of choosing data as the domain in IT particularly. So that is how I got interested into IT.
Excellent, like the job security aspect of it, and also you were inclined towards coding and all of that. Makes sense. Right. Yeah, nice. So, what practices did you follow to make yourself strong at programming as such? Because you are from a, non-computer science background. So, what did you follow to make yourself good at programming languages?
Right. So, when I was studying electronics and communication in the college, so we did have some subjects related to programming, but they were like in the third year or towards the fourth year. But then so that is when I just came to know that, okay, there is something called as programming that one should practice, and it can also give you a chance to move into the IT industry if we do programming. So I started with the easier languages first because, the children or the students who belong to the computer science branch, they are into programming from very beginning. But then since I was already in my third year and I had to start programming, so I thought of moving on with very basic programming languages. So I started with SQL, which I would say is, I found it really easy to practice. So I mainly practiced SQL in the beginning, and then I moved on to Python, wherein I also included the data structure related concepts. So for starters, I would say that I started watching the SQL theory videos And I also took help from the Trendy Tech videos that are available on the YouTube channel. And then I simultaneously practiced 2 to 3 SQL questions daily, from the websites like LeetCode or HackerEarth or HackerRank. So that is how I started my SQL journey, practicing questions and, watching the theory videos simultaneously. Also, nowadays in the YouTube channel, we have, other YouTube channels also coming up like Ankit Bansal's, where we can practice SQL questions. So I just think that in programming, the main thing is practicing. You know the theory, it's really good, but if you don't practice, you will fall back. So practicing is the key when it comes to programming. So this is how I practice SQL. Then coming to the Python, since I belong to the data profile, so I was only doing questions related to the data in Python. So for example, studying the pandas library was a plus. There are approximately 10 to 15 important functions that are there in pandas that one must practice if they are looking forward towards the data profile. Then moving on to the toughest part, that was data structures and algorithms. This was a little tough for me because I belong to the electronics domain and then I was trying to move into IT. But then DSA is something that one needs to practice when they are moving up in the ladder of their profession. So a lot of free stuff is available for interviews when it comes to DSA. But then we need to practice a lot. So here again, I first studied the theory and the fundamentals, and then I practiced a lot through LeetCode. But as I mentioned, I practiced only easy and medium part because in data industry, if you will notice, and this is I noticed through my experience, that only easy and medium level questions are asked in the interviews of various organizations that we apply through. So doing around 30 to 35 questions per topic like arrays, list, strings and linked list will really help you through with the DSA questions that one needs to get into data domain. And for me, I also noticed that even if you don't know the coding part of the question, but in the interview, even if you are able to tell the pseudocode to the interviewer, then interviewer still considers that and helps you to write the code with the help of the pseudocode or the pseudo logic that you're going to provide. So yeah, that was pretty much about the programming. So I would just say that it is all about practice. You just need to practice the questions and you will be able to crack programming. It's not that tough.
I really true that. And so for all of our viewers who are, wanting to know about the resources which Surabhi mentioned, I'll be putting them in the comment section, whether it is the SQL series by Trendy Tech or other free resources for practicing SQL and also data structures. I will let them know in the comment section below. Surabhi, thank you for that. That was an extensive explanation on how to prepare yourself to become strong at programming. Well, moving on, I glanced through your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you have worked for a series of service-based companies for nearly 5 years, right? What were your kind of strong takeaway from this work experience of yours?
Yeah, first of all, I would say that I'm glad that I was hired directly from my college into a firm, as most of us in India do have a dream of getting a job directly from college itself, like skipping all the struggles that we do when we apply offline. So yeah, I am first of all very glad that I got my job directly from college, and it was a service-based company that I joined. But I think the major advantage of that firm was that it was in field of data, which was a buzzword 5 years back, and it still continues to be. I entered into the data domain and worked with the data tech stack, which was prevalent in the market then. I got a good training and I solved multiple assignments on the topics like SQL, Python, Excel, Power BI, and then we also got the domain knowledge from my company itself and then the cloud technologies that were prevalent in the market. So all this extensive training was given by the service-based company that I joined. So this was a very big plus. And, also I've conversed with many other people who, directly join service-based companies, and I've got to know that the training program of those companies is really extensive and it's really good and helps the, new joiners to get themselves comfortable with the technology that they're going to work. So I think, the good trainings that the service-based companies provide, they are definitely an advantage, and I too benefited a lot from them. Even if I was from electronics background, I never felt, that I'm a stranger to the IT domain because of the excellent trainings that I got and the practice that I was able to do in my initial months when I joined the service-based company. So that is one key takeaway from working in a service-based company. Coming to the other aspects, for example, the project allocation. I started my career with AWS Cloud and ETL tools like Matillion to implement the needs of the clients. But then I was associated with the same client for 3 years, and the projects got into operations phase and the work became a little stagnant because I was there with the same client. Also, we sometimes had the pressure, of implementing the task for the client, but never came back to optimize the system performance or, really understand how to save on the resources that our processes were using. Gradually all this stagnated my learning curve. But I would say that I personally faced this, and I could have avoided this scenario just by talking to my manager. So, just asking him or her to switch my project. But then, I think that sometimes it becomes difficult in service-based companies, for your managers or for your upper management to, make a change to your projects. So yeah, that is the thing, that project allocation, initially it's good, but if you get stuck with the same project, then it might become a problem, because projects that do get into operations phase or, new problems, come in, and then you think that your learning curve is stagnated.
Yeah.
So,
but how did you prepare yourself, or have this mindset to step out of that comfort zone, because you're already doing good with the service-based company? And what motivated you towards having a next step towards your professional career growth?
Right. So coming to this part, I would say that there was a situation where I was having a discussion with one of my friends who was working in a different project. So he was trying to ask me a way ahead for a problem that he was facing in his data engineering project that was assigned to him in the organization. So during the discussion, I realized that I do know about the data engineering concepts, but it's very superficial and I lacked the basic concepts. So I knew how to implement the tasks that are given, but when it came to optimization or pipeline improvements, I was a little blank there, when I was conversing with my friend. So this came as an eye-opener for me, that even after being in the industry for 4 years, I am not much comfortable with the holistic knowledge, the in-depth knowledge of the topics. So I was knowing the fancy terms in data engineering, and I was working on the latest tech stack also. But anything outside my responsibilities in my project, I was not very comfortable with answering those questions, or I was, a little blank, when those sort of things came up to me. So these conversations, that I had with some other people outside my project, they came as an eye-opener for me, and that was when I decided that, okay, it's high time that I should step out of my comfort zone and study data engineering from an angle that I get a holistic view of, what this domain is, and how I can enhance my knowledge, how I can optimize, how I can really think on those lines where I am benefiting the client by saving on to the resources. So that was when I, thought of moving out of my comfort zone and, giving myself another chance to re-prepare myself for the data engineering domain.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. So that was your motivation towards, the next step towards your journey. But how did you start your preparation for your, the new aspiring journey that you were looking forward for? Were there any resources that helped you in paving this solid roadmap for you during your learning phase to become a data engineer?
Yeah, I would definitely like to answer this, because I think when we try to get out of the comfort zone, initially we are really very motivated. We are like, we'll do this, we'll do that. But, gradually when we try to search for the resources that are available, either we find a lot of resources, or either we don't find any resource, which is something which can give us a direction, or, which can take us in the correct direction. So similar thing happened with me, that my journey primarily started with learning the basics and internals of the tools of the languages, that we are using in the data industry. So, the first step that we do is we start to check the internet for free resources. But then I couldn't get much help from the free resources that were there available on the internet. Then my next step was, now internet, the written or the blogs were not helping. So I started to move towards YouTube. So I started to follow some data engineers on YouTube. And even, sometimes I took some paid membership to gain, mentorship from the YouTubers. I did get a list of topics to study from, the mentorship that I took from the YouTuber. But again, the problem was vast amount of material was available on internet, but none of the material is able to teach you the concepts right from the basics. So I did spend good 3 to 4 months just trying to learn from the internet for free, but soon realized that, if I go through this channel, I will never be able to get a focused learning. And, that is when I thought that, I would need some guided course or something, which can help me to provide a channelized learning. So that is when I came to know about Trendy Tech, from one of the YouTubers only. And I then got on a call with the Trendy Tech team to understand if, me having 4 years of experience and still lacking the basics, should I continue my journey in this domain or not, or should I change, or would I be able to survive in this industry with the kind of problems that I am facing? So the team was really helpful. They cleared my doubts, and they just asked me to keep faith and then enroll in the course. So I still had some doubts, but then I made up my mind, and then I joined the course primarily just for clearing my basics. But then, when you join the course, it was for the learning purpose, but then I was able to learn a lot from the course, and I started to aspire, for product-based companies and for a higher package. And this is all, how my journey started. And I joined Trendy Tech, and yes, I was able to get the success that I was looking forward. Not only in terms of, I would say the package that I got or the company switch that I made, but also I would say the real success joining the course for me was getting into the basics. And I was able to confidently say that, yes, I am a data engineer and I know in and out, of what I have done in these 5 years.
Nice. A structured course and also a mentor who can guide you in a focused way is what is required to achieve, whatever you're aspiring for, definitely. About the Trendy Tech's Big Data Masters program by Sumit sir, I will also mention in the comment section for your reference. Yeah, Sarabi. Also, now moving on to the main thing, how was your first data engineering interview experience? How did it help you in improving your skills to attend further interviews as such?
Yeah, so my first data engineering interview experience was not with a big giant, as I had already thought that I would, before giving an interview for a big giant company, which I want to join, I would just write some dummy interviews. So my first data engineering interview was not with a big giant, and I was just trying to give the dummy interviews before appearing for the real interviews. So the first rounds of any data engineering interviews, they revolve around SQL and problem solving skills. In some companies, the first rounds were SQL and DSA also. Some companies had written tests or MCQ questions on Spark, data engineering, or Azure cloud topics. So these were the initial questions that will come in the first rounds of any data engineering interview. Then after successfully, clearing these initial rounds, the next rounds were mainly associated with resume related projects. There I had questions related to project and the technology that we're using in our projects. And having an in-depth knowledge on the same is really important, as this is one area where basics, internals are tested by the interviewer. I really struggled with this part of the interview when I was appearing for my first data engineering interview. So yeah, project related information and knowing in and out, why this project was prepared and why did we use this particular tech stack and why didn't we use the other one? Was the client really, up for the technology stack that we were suggesting? Was it saving some cost for him? So yeah, all these questions will be asked by the interviewer, and sometimes, the first interview might be an eye-opener when you're not able to answer, these set of questions. Then I would say that the focus shifts to the big data-related concepts. When you're preparing for the interview, the interviewer might talk about Hive, about its optimizations, questions on RDDs, both theoretical and practical, because in RDDs we do have basic questions and then we do have some practical questions as well. I mean, the interviewer might ask you to write a program in the RDD level format only, and then the interviewer might also ask about SQL optimizations and the architecture of Spark that is there, the Spark optimizations, And then some basic system design can also come in some interviews, but I would say that system design was not part of most of the interviews, but yeah, it might come up. So I would just say that whenever it's the first interview, it will definitely be an eye-opener. So I would just suggest that before appearing for the real interview that you want to give, you should first try out some dummy interviews so that you know that, which topics you're very comfortable in while answering and which topics you are not, so that, you can brush up on those topics and re-prepare yourself for those topics.
Yeah, that was a great takeaway. Try to, attend more mock interviews and also attend some,
Right.
Dummy interviews as such to just, which you might not be wanting to join though, but then just for the experience sake of it initially.
Yeah. And I think Trendy Tech was able to help me in this as well because, of the mock interviews that they do provide. So in case you just want to give it a tryout, it's not only in the concepts, but communication also plays a very important role when you come to when you go for the interviews. So sometimes you might know all the technical concepts, but you're not able to converse well or convey your thoughts well to the interviewer. So it is always better to have a mock interview before you really apply or go for a real interview.
Right. Nice. What were the different companies that you applied for, if you could state a few, and how many were you able to crack as such?
Right. So I applied for various companies, irrespective of whether they were service-based or product-based, they were newly formed or they were very established from past. Because I was mostly looking, I had this perspective that I just need to look for a company which is in Delhi NCR region because I have been here only. So that was, that was my personal take on this, that I was just looking for companies in Delhi NCR. So yeah, I just wanted to take a plunge at all the opportunities that were available here. So every interview added to my experience that I was giving. And whether I failed or passed, every interview, just made me learn something new with the experience that I got. So in one interview, I was able to improve my soft skills, and in another, I was able to get some more technical questions which I was not able to answer. So this way, when I applied for multiple companies, I was polishing my speaking skills, I was polishing my confidence, I was, getting away with all my nervousness that I had when I started giving my interviews. So I also got a wide range of technical questions. I was able to collate a lot of technical questions when I was appearing for interviews of various companies. So naming a few companies that I applied were like Blue Pie Consulting, BCG, Gartner. I even applied for Pepsi, Expedia, for PayPal, for Paytm. I applied for EXL as well. And there were many more, but these are some names, that I had just put up. And I was able to crack more than 7+ organizations. So cracking the first one, I would say the first one was a little difficult for me because I had multiple failures before I was able to crack the first one. But then, when the first time the ice breaks, then everything gets easy and, the bubble of the tension that revolves around it gets busted. So it's just the first company that would take a lot of effort for anyone to crack. But then it becomes a cakewalk for us to, crack the next set of companies.
Yeah, I definitely agree on this. The feedbacks that you get from the, the interviews that you were not able to would prepare you much more to that one particular opportunity that will, make that particular aspiring job that you want to. It'll help you in that, definitely. A lot of people may get demotivated initially because they're not able to crack, but it's a learning that you have to gain over the period of time, and you will be successful one day, definitely. Yeah, thanks for that tip over there, Surabhi. And so I would like to really understand this main thing over here. If you could run us through the interview rounds of MasterCard.
Right. I will try to answer that question. So mainly, I would say that not only MasterCard, but any company which has its name in the market, if you try to go for that, there will be around 4 major rounds that are going to happen. So here, the first round was the code pair round. They call it code pair round, but it mainly consisted of the coding questions around SQL and Python, which the interviewer is going to ask. They might give you a portal where they would ask you to write the answers to the questions that they are asking, or even if they don't give you a portal, they would ask you to open a notepad, and then they would give you some SQL questions, some Python questions, and then you would have to solve. The questions that I particularly got here were, for example, in SQL, I had to give a query so that we are able to find the most recent purchased products. Then another question was around removing duplicates from the data that we are having. And another question was that if I have a table, consisting of salaries of the employees, so I need to find out the top 3 salaries department-wise of the employees. So these were some, basic, easy and pretty basic questions around SQL that were asked. And in Python also, the level of questions was really easy. I think the interviewer mainly here looks around your knowledge and how well are you able to explain your code. So my suggestion to all the people who are appearing for the first round of interviews would be, just don't start writing the query directly after you hear the question. It's better to first give your approach, tell your approach, how are you approaching the question, what are the things that you're planning to use while solving the question, and then, start towards writing the query. So that was really helpful for me, because even if I was not knowing the answer, but when I was trying to convey my approach to the interviewer, sometimes, while speaking only, you're able to find out the solution, even if you don't, know how your solution is going to end. Then I think the next round is going to be the big data round. It is mostly, for me, it was mostly related to Spark. I was asked about the Spark architecture, the internals of, how Spark works. I was also asked about narrow and wide transformations that are there in Spark, and I had to supply examples as well to support whatever I was saying. Then they asked me to write a simple word count problem, and thankfully it was covered in the course, so I was really able to write that problem. We were given a file and I just had to give the word count, but that I had to do using RDDs, which are the basic unit of Spark. And then, again, I think my day was good. So I was able to solve the SQL questions also that were asked to me in the second round. So yeah, that is about the second round that happened, and they called it the big data round. Yeah. Okay, then moving on to the third round, it was a system design round. I think this round will come up, if you have 5+ years of experience, because system design rounds is, where you model the data, where you would be asked, for example, develop a OLAP system. So I was asked this. I was asked to develop a OLAP system, which will consist of the full tables, incremental load tables, and what could be your approach towards the incremental loads? How would you handle that? Difference between a lake house and a data warehouse, and then there were some follow-up questions about the solution that I told the interviewer about, the OLAP system design that he was asking. So yeah, that was the system design round. And if you're able to make through all these rounds, then comes the hiring manager round. But yeah, one should not take this round lightly, because here the hiring manager again focuses on your resume, the projects that you have mentioned in your resume, the in and outs of that, the architecture of the projects that you have implemented in past in previous organizations. Then the hiring manager is also going to ask very specific questions around each of the tools and the technologies that you would have used in the projects. Again, here, since, we work in the data industry and the data quality is an issue. So data quality is something that, every hiring manager is concerned about whenever they are hiring. So they want to know how are we going to handle the data quality in the projects that we are going to work in. So something around data quality, something around code versioning is also asked. And then in my hiring manager round, I was also asked about data lake and its concept. So yeah, that was pretty much the 4 rounds that I had. And
yeah, nice. That was really informative, Sarabi. Thank you so much. That will be helping a lot of our audience. And finally, if you have any tips that you would like to share with all the data engineers out here from your end, through your experience, whatever you have, in case if you would like to share some tips. Yeah.
Right. So I will just say that data industry is really growing. And if you will put your efforts in the right direction, you will definitely be able to get through, whichever company. If you're trying to switch companies, you will be able to do that. If you're trying to enter into the data world, you would be do that, because there is no lack of opportunities here. There are ample opportunities for everyone who want to, who have practiced data and they want to enter into the industry. And I would just say that I faced a lot of issues while searching for from where to learn the topics on the internet. So if you somewhere or somehow get a guided path, it really saves on the time that you are spending online, and gives you, more channelized learning when you go through a course is what I took away, because I initially wasted 3 to 4 months when I was just trying to search online, just trying to find out if I could just clear my basics with the help of the blogs or the videos that are available. So yeah, that would be one takeaway. And the last one is practice. You need to implement some projects, yourself, or if you have worked in the companies on the data related projects earlier, it's great. But if you have not, just do 1 or 2 data related projects before applying for any interviews in the data industry. That really helps when we have implemented a project on our own.
Right. Thank you so much for all the information that you have shared with us, and it was really a pleasure talking to you. And we wish you loads of success in your future endeavors as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Mansa. Thank you so much.